Howdy partners, it's so good to be here again. First of all, Happy New Year's. I imagine by the time this video is out, it will already be 2025. So I'm wishing you and your loved ones much health, wealth, and all the goodness in the world. I think we will all need it in the coming year. In any case, it's that time of year again where I will be beginning my year-end list. This time start with the best albums of 2024. I don't talk too much about music on this channel. As you may have noticed, I spend most of my time rambling about movies. I do love the cinema. It's basically a home away from home. Otherwise, I spend a decent amount of time talking about video games as well because indeed professionally I am a game developer. But even if I don't talk about music on this channel all that much, in my day-to-day life, it takes a giant portion of my life. Literally not a single day goes by where I don't drown my soul in an endless ocean of music. It truly is the lifeblood that fuels the passion and creativity for my creative work and life in general. And personally, 2024 has been a pretty wild year when it comes to music. Not just in terms of album releases, though that too, as we will obviously be talking about in a moment, but I did have a lot of serendipitous moments this year where I found myself at concerts. Some of them were totally unplanned as well. Whenever relevant, I will briefly comment on those experiences, but otherwise I won't waste too much of your time. Though if you are interested, I will link a video in the description of a bit of a miraculous experience I had in Barcelona. Truly, the gods of music shined down on me that trip. I really feel like I had the luck of the Irish this year. Alright, without further ado, let's get to the list, the top 30. So there are a bunch of albums that I know that I just didn't get around to, either because I didn't have the time, bandwidth, or I just don't know that they exist and they're out there waiting for me to discover them one day. However, these are the records that really inspire me and that made a memorable impact in my life. So shout out to all the artists in 2024. It's been a pretty great year. I will be starting off this list with the last album I listened to in 2024. And I'm super late to the party with this one. At number 30, I'm putting Songs of a Lost World by The Cure. I've known individual songs by The Cure for quite some time, obviously, but this is actually my first full album that I dive into. It's a shame, I know I've been living under a rock, but this was a really great starting point for me and I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. And it is remarkable to consider that it's been 16 years since their last full album release, and they still sound like they're in prime form. This is such a great album, and another reminder that I really need to go listen to Disintegration from beginning to end. Better late than never, I guess. At number 29, Beyonce continues her legendary album win streak with yet another ambitious project with Cowboy Carter. This time she's taking a massive left turn towards country music, and it's kind of a banger. This is the second act of this album trilogy that she's been working on, which started with Renaissance. Apparently Cowboy Carter was initially supposed to come out before Renaissance, but the pandemic kind of changed the plans in the midst of it. So seeing how great these two albums are, I think we're all excited to see what the final chapter of this album trilogy would be. And it's also interesting to see where she will take her music next. Is it going to be another genre shift? Who knows? Only time will tell. But there's no question that this is one of the biggest album releases of the year. But for number 28, I'm choosing something a little bit more low-key. That would be Something in the Room She Moves by Julia Holter, one of the most captivating pop records of the year. And truth be told, this is my first time encountering her music. I have heard of Julia Holter before, but there you go, there's a first time for everything. But before moving on to her other projects, I really feel like I need more time to digest this project because there's still layers of the onion that I need to peel back, I feel. This is quite the gem, I highly recommend it. And now the next couple albums will be centered around the hip-hop rap genre. There are a lot of great albums and more still further on down the list. But at number 27, I'm going to be starting with Navy Blue's latest album, Memoirs in Armor. And this guy is hot off the heels his excellent album that came out last year, Ways of Knowing, which really made a gigantic impression on me. This record is quite short, might be the shortest record on this list actually, but it loses none of its power and it's an incredibly soulful and poetic rap album. The vibes this man creates really puts my soul in a sense of awe. Greatly appreciative of Navy Blue. Next up, at number 26, we have Denzel Curry, who is one of the most prolific and talented rappers working today. He's coming out with yet another fantastic project, King of the Mischievous South Volume 2. Though this album might not be showcasing his usual lyrical wizardry as we are used to, though it more than makes up for in some really fantastic trap vibes with some thick bass. It is catchy as hell. And it's also fun just seeing how many features there are on this album. It really feels like one giant posse cut and everyone's just having the time of their lives. This thing is badass and awesome. Then at number 25, we have Vince Staples, who's following up with one of his best albums in years with Dark Times. It is short, to the point, and powerful, and it features some of his most thought-provoking lyrics and catchy tunes to date. Another rapper that's been consistently interesting listening to throughout the years. At number 24, Schoolboy Q goes so hard on his Blue Lips record. This is one of the most infectious and fun rap records of the year. It's literally just one banger after another. There's so many highlights on this album. It really is a right from beginning to end. And at number 23, very much in the same vein with the comments of that last album, Tyler the Creator blesses us with yet another great record with Chromacopia. There are so many memorable songs with witty lyricism, and sonically it is also super creative. I also want to shout out just how cool the concept around the announcement, promotion, and lead up to the album was. Tyler really has a great eye for art direction and style. And though this might not be my personal favorite Tyler album, it is further proof that there is no doubt in any of our minds that Tyler is very much a force to be reckoned with, and continually puts out fantastic music that pushes the genre forward. Next, at number 22, Life's Outgrown is quite an enchanting record. Beth Gibbons is best known for her contribution as a vocalist to the legendary trip-hop group Portishead, but that's not really a foreshadowing of the kind of vibe you're gonna get on this record. In fact, it sounds like nothing she's ever done before. Though granted, I have yet to listen to her debut album, which came out 22 years ago, so it is a pretty gigantic time gap. Still, this is a very slow, intimate, and it has a very haunting, poetic quality about it. I do love this album, but I still feel like I need so much more time to just peel back the layers and properly digest this record. I feel like I've only dipped my toes into this ocean of sound. And at number 21, we have Cascade by Floating Points. The last Floating Points album was that mind-expanding Promises record, which was a collaboration between Pharoah Sanders, may he rest in peace, and the London Symphony Orchestra. That record remains one of my most treasured possessions, and it's something that I regularly revisit to if I'm reading or I need to focus at work. So it is interesting for me to see him go back to his electronic roots. Personally, I've never been as much into the electronic scene, not that I've been hating on it, of course, so I always do celebrate the moments whenever an electronic record does resonate with me. And this one really captured my attention. There's something quite wonderful going on here. To kick off the top 20, Wild God, the latest project from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. It features some of those thoughtful and poetic music I've heard all year long. And I still feel like I have so much learning to do about Nick Cave's music. It hasn't been that long since I first exposed myself to it. That was back in 2021 with his collaboration project with Warren Ellis for Carnage. That was a great project, and I do find a lot of similar tonal elements that are found here in this record. With each new Nick Cave record that I experience, I'm reminded why this musical act is so beloved. There's something incredibly uplifting and euphoric in several moments of this record. Wow. And at number 19, we have the breakup album of the year, or perhaps the divorce album of the year. Anderson .Paak collaborates once again with Knowledge on their latest No Worries record, Why Lord? That doesn't feel like I'm pronouncing it right. Why Lord? Anyways, you get the idea. As sad as the concept of this record undoubtedly is, it's so damn catchy. It can be surprisingly upbeat and witty, though of course there are some very moody and melancholic cuts on this album. Still, it is quite beautiful and cathartic for me in some strange way. This resonated with me big time. At number 18 is a mixtape that I stumbled on by accident. That will be the Scrapyard Project by Quadeca. The moment I found that track, Way Too Many Friends, I had that on repeat for quite a while when I discovered it. Anyway, the rest of this record is a varied collection of songs that ranges far beyond just the rap genre. It dabbles in pop, glitchy ambient music, as well as borderline shoegaze style music. It is often a mesmerizing and emotional record. And that final track, Texas Blue, really gets under my skin. Beautiful stuff. At number 17, No Hands by Joey Valence and Bray is easily the funnest album of the year. This record is one quirky lyrical banger after another. It is infinitely catchy and super accessible, and the grooves are out of this world cool and super creative. Yeah, this thing kind of blew my hat off. And though on one hand the songs are super explosive and energetic, they are regularly contrasted by these very chill hop vibes. It's another record that's short and sweet and to the point, no filler tracks, and I do feel like just about anyone could vibe with this thing. It rules. Now at number 16 we have arguably the biggest surprise of the year. Not that I thought a Kim Gordon album would be uninteresting, of course. Her contribution to music through Sonic Youth is legendary. So we all already knew she has a boatload of talent. But I don't think anyone had in their bingo cards that Kim Gordon, at the age of 71, would put out a record like The Collective. A record that is so forward-thinking, inventive, and a giant stylistic change for her as well. Did I mention that this record has some serious trap vibes? Yeah, this one's so much harder than any of us thought it would. God damn. And at number 15, we have one of the first major musical impacts I had in my life in 2024. Brittany Howard, the singer from Alabama Shakes, has been doing her solo gig for quite a while now, and this year she put out an incredible sophomore record called What Now? It is a rather genre-defying project that explores funk, jazz, psychedelia, and soul. A lot of soul. This thing is exploding with it. It is gorgeous, inspiring, and even has a zen-like quality in its soul-searching-like experience. What Now is a regularly breathtaking album and features some incredible vocals. Moving on to number 14, there are a bunch of really remarkable pop records that came out in this year, and Prelude to Ecstasy by The Last Dinner Party is one of the prime examples of that. It is beautiful, super catchy, and incredibly passionate. They may just have put out the hottest pop song this year with Nothing Matters, and I also had the good fortune of seeing them live in Barcelona. Did not plan on that, but boy was I glad that I was there. Honestly, I think this was easily the most emotionally charged show out of all the gigs I saw at that music festival. I literally had goosebumps. And I also have to say that this album features my favorite vocals of any record this year. Abigail Morris's voice is incredible. And mind you, it's not just in the studio, live as well, she's incredible. Yeah, this is one hell of a debut album. I wonder what's next for them. Moving on to number 13, yet another great pop record. Imagine All This by Magdalena Bay features some most lush production I've heard on any record this year, and as you can see thus far, there's quite the competition. And this really is the point of the list where my brain starts to hurt when it comes to just ranking the albums. If this album is in your number 1 position or higher, I totally get it, we're on the same page here. Regardless, this synth dance pop record has some of the catchiest tunes I've heard all year long, and I just can't get enough of them. It can be uplifting and rousing, but I also deeply appreciate the more slower and melancholic cuts. It is absolutely irresistible, and it seems to be regularly growing on me, so I totally understand how this could end up much higher on other people's lists. What a great album. I almost regret not pushing it higher. In any case, it is challenging to put one record in front of another, especially with this next one at number 12, which is one of the craziest records not only of this year, but perhaps ever. The new sound by Jordan Grebe kind of came out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned. I didn't even have time to process the fact that Black Midi was on indefinite hiatus. That was a shock and still kind of bummed out about it, but then there's this record that just walloped my brain. I'm still processing this record, but it really does feel like a genius mad scientist creating this masterpiece of an art rock record. This is creativity run wild in the best way. And then at number 11, also in the thematic of art rock creativity, and while we're still yet waiting for another Radiohead album, we're at least blessed with yet another The Smile record with Wall of Eyes. And mind you, this isn't the only Smile record we got this year. So the band has been quite busy and productive. This is an incredible, kaleidoscopic, and abstract album that still challenges me and that continues to charm and inspire me. And incidentally, I wonder when, if even ever at this point, we'll get another Radiohead album. Are they becoming the next Tool? Are we gonna have to wait 13 years? I guess only time will tell, but until then, we're getting some really compelling records from The Smile. You don't want to miss out on that if you are a Radiohead fan. Finally, at the top 10, these are the records that made the biggest impact on me in my life in 2024. And in some cases, these are records that initially I wasn't so keen on, and over time they really grew on me. And to start off the top 10, just that kind of record. Not that I didn't like it on the first time, of course, but Lupe Fiasco follows up with his latest record, Samurai, and he's taken quite an interesting direction with this record. This is some of the chillest and smoothest jazz hop that I've had the pleasure listening to this year, and reflecting on it, I do think that my love for Nujabes was my gateway for having this record eventually bloom on me so strongly as it did. It is a very short record that doesn't overstay its welcome, and it is infinitely inviting for me to just revisit so I can appreciate the clever and thoughtful lyricism that I only appreciate more with time. And the cherry on top of this cake is that there's a fascinating Amy Winehouse inspiration at the core of this album. Lupe seems to be on a bit of a win streak. I equally love this previous album, Drill Music and Zion. At number 9, we have Kendrick Lamar's latest record with G&X, an album that just came out not too long ago. And honestly, I just skipped all the Drake and Kendrick beef. I have no interest in such things. No time for that kind of drama in my life. But even so, I wasn't expecting a record to come out quite so soon in the midst of that. So yeah, this thing kind of came out of nowhere and it totally crushes. Though it might be less conceptual comparatively to an album like To Pimp a Butterfly, don't make the mistake of underestimating this. This is Kendrick Lamar in peak form, and further proof that he is one of the most talented rappers to ever grace the music scene. Legendary stuff. Already his discography was among the all-time greats, and now the average is inching even a little bit higher. Not an easy feat to accomplish. At number 8 is an album that initially I wasn't sure if I liked it at first. JPEG Mafia's music has always been challenging, but he's taking it to a whole new level with I Lay Down My Life For You. Not gonna lie, it was a little overwhelming on my first few listens. There's so much going on all at the same time here. But with time and repeated listens, I grew to love the chaos and the creative genius of each of these tracks. Truly, I think he is a top tier talent in today's modern rapper-producer era. What a force to be reckoned with. And on this album in particular, he's pushing the rap, rock, metal mashup in stunning ways. I also got the chance to see him live not too long ago for this album cycle. Yeah, I have been to a lot of shows this year, and I'm definitely not covering all of them. Now, over my lifetime, I've been to a lot of different kind of concerts, but I think this might be one of the rowdiest crowds I've ever seen. And mind you, I've been to a lot of metal shows. Literally the whole show, I was just being pushed around and just crushed into people, and my friend too. Sorry about that, genuinely. I literally felt like a marionette. I was powerless in this situation. And not only that, there were endless mosh pits. At a rap show? Damn, Peggy. Now, moving on to number 7, Shushu put out one of the most accessible albums to date. And yes, the album name is way too long for me to remember off the top of my head. So, 13 Frank Beltrame Italian Stiletto with bison horn grips. What a mouthful. But yeah, even if it is comparatively more accessible than some of their other projects, fear not, it is still plenty weird, experimental, and alternative. Just not girl with a basket level kind of weird. Fascinating album, but a little trying, wasn't it? Regardless, I think these are some of their catchiest songs to date. There are some massive hits on this record that I just can't get enough of. Truly one of the most creative bands I've discovered in recent years. I've been familiar with their records from the last 10 years or so, but I need to go back even further back in time to really just get a full picture of what this band is like. But honestly, this is one of my favorite records from them thus far. I also got a chance to see him live in Montreal back in October. That was a blast. And I even did pick up their latest record. So shiny, it's like a Pokemon card. And this also was one night after seeing Danny Brown's back-to-back concerts this year. In any case, each song they played was a journey. The entire crowd just locked into the experience, and it was just this sonic wall of creativity and some pretty crazy and industrial sounds. Absolutely loved it. And it was also curious to see just how between each song they would just have a complete silence where the whole band would just meticulously and slowly setting up for their next song. It's not something I see all too often in shows. But that moment was kind of ruined by this one asshole in the crowd who just wouldn't stop talking. Jamie Stewart himself actually had to step in at one point and say like, hey man, if you're louder than us, you're being loud. What a world we live in. Anyways, this record rules, and if you've never listened to Shushu before, I think this might be a great starting point, because some of the other records are kind of wild. At number 6 is another album that I didn't fully appreciate on my first listen. MGMT's Loss of Life is a very soft-spoken record that takes a moment for you to acclimate to. But soon enough, I found myself totally invested in the songwriting. People in the Streets in particular is one of my favorite songs of the year. This might not have the commercial appeal like some of their other projects had, but I invite you all to sit down with this record and allow it to bloom on you. Personally, this is the album that reminds me that sometimes great things require a bit of time and exposure and the willingness to open yourself to new experiences. However, at number 5 is a record that was an instant hit. Jack White's No Name is an absolute dynamite of a hard rock blues record. These are arguably the most explosive group of tracks he's ever put to record, which is no small feat when you consider the repertoire of this man's career, either in his solo or his projects with the White Stripes. Truly, the record is that great. Track after track is just one explosive rocking banger after another. Good God, this record rocked my socks off. I was not ready for that. And following up at number 4, going even deeper in the heavier categories. Been foreshadowing the whole time a little bit with this shirt, of course. Chappelle has been kicking up a store in my life in 2024, and it all culminated with their latest record, Cool World. It is an absolutely pulverizing noise rock sludge metal album. The grungy, sludgy tones of the guitar is exactly what the doctor ordered. And the vocals never cease to amaze me, given just how clean the guttural screaming is. This is truly an impressive album, and the band that I clearly by a long shot listened to the most in the year of 2024. Because it wasn't just Cool World, that record was great, but I really went down the rabbit hole of Chappelle, generally speaking, in this year. Their debut album, God's Country, arguably is even better than Cool World, and it made me appreciate it even more. But I also went exploring some of their numerous EPs, which are absolutely devastating. And finally, I had the privilege of seeing them live in Metropolis in Montreal. Did get this shirt, also got their Cool Worlds record, as well as the duo EP over here, This Dungeon Earth and Remove Your Skin Please. Very charming album titles. And as you can imagine, this was a great show, and surprisingly funny too. I wasn't expecting that part. The band literally walked on stage with the Austin Powers music playing. Of all things. And Ray Gun Bush, the vocalist, had endless pop culture references in relation to Montreal, which as a local is much appreciated and unexpected too. Dude went above and beyond the call to duty. And he also did the whole show bare-chested, bare feet, and in beach shorts. Why not, dude? You do you. In any case, I think I speak for all the rest of us Montrealers. You guys are welcome back in our town anytime. That was a great night. And at number 3, contrasting the brutalic, animalistic nature of Chappelle, going something with a lot softer and more delicate, but no less powerful, Adrian Lenker releases yet another enchanting folklore record with Bright Future. This is one of the softest and most beautiful records I listened to all year, and yet further prove that Adrian is one of the most treasured singer-songwriters working today. With each new solo or Big Thief record, Adrian's skill as a singer-songwriter seems to be growing exponentially. There are so many songs on Bright Future that leave me in a state of awe. I absolutely adore this, and you shouldn't miss out on this. Getting to the end of the list. At number 2, Vampire Weekend blew me away with their 5th record, Only God Was Above Us. Honestly, I was not a huge fan of their last record, Father of the Bride. Not terrible by any means, but a far cry from the appreciation that I had for the first 3 records. So this was a stellar return to form, and it might even be their best album overall. The instrumental playing is complex, imaginative. The keyboards in particular on this album are insane. And Ezra's vocals and songwriting seems even more powerful and competent than ever before. It was such a fun experience from beginning to end. And I had, once again, the unexpected opportunity of seeing them live in Barcelona. Boy, did they sound amazing live. The visual spectacle of that show as well was quite mesmerizing. Truly, the band is at the height of their artistic prowess. Hot damn. And for a while, this was my album of the year. In fact, if I had to weigh pound for pound my musical appreciation between this album and the one at number 1 spot, I'd say they're more or less equal. However, the other record has a leg up when it comes to the cultural significance it had in the year of 2024. So of course, as you may have guessed by now, I am talking about Brat. It is the pop album phenomenon that took the world by storm in the year of 2024. It contains many of the biggest and catchiest songs this year, by a landslide. Not that an album needs to be popular, of course, to be considered of quality. But even with these larger-than-life party songs, there is this underlying deep emotional quality about them that I found really thought-provoking, and something that would progressively resonate stronger with me as the months would go by. It truly lodged itself into my life in the year 2024. Girl, So Confusing was always one of my favorite songs of the year, and its power grew exponentially on me with its second version featuring Lorde. An already great song is now imbued with a very powerful and complimentary perspective. Honestly, one of the most wholesome moments in the music scene I have witnessed. And honestly, that album in its initial state already had everything it needed to earn its spot on number 1 at this list. But this album cycle is the gift that just kept on giving. Soon enough, we got an additional version of the album titled Brat, and it's the same but there are 3 more songs, so it's not, which featured these 3 extra songs, which honestly I appreciate just as much as some of the best songs on that album. So really fat, juicy cherry on top of that cake. But there's still more. Later in the year, she released yet another version of this album, this time a collaboration with numerous famous artists to remix this album. It was titled Brat, and it's completely different, but it's still Brat. And though I might prefer the original version as a cohesive whole, there's some individual songs on this version of the album that I vastly prefer. Look no further than Everything Is Romance. That version with Caroline Polachek, oh my word, it is absolutely gorgeous. It left me speechless the first time I listened to it. So yeah, this album was quite the cultural phenomenon this year. And finally, I damn near saw her in Barcelona. As I briefly mentioned, I was at that Primavera Sound music festival in Barcelona. Did not expect to be there, so I was only there for the first 2 days because my plane was leaving on the third day, which was the day Charlie XCS would have been playing. And keep in mind, this is the very end of May and the beginning of June, so we had no idea that she was about to put out the album of the year. That would have been so much fun to see it raw and unexpected like that, but no matter, I redeemed myself. I got to see her in September in Montreal, and let me tell you, it was a hell of a party that night. So it wasn't just a Brat summer. Honestly, it was a Brat year. What a fantastic album. This is one that we're definitely going to be talking about years from now. So there it is, the top 30 albums of 2024 on the Bottomless Pit. Thank you so much for sticking around, for watching. I know that there's still plenty of albums out there that I need to check out. Hopefully they will find me exactly when I'm ready. But these are the ones that found their way into my life and made an impact on me, and boy, am I grateful for that. And I'm also grateful for you, for all of you who have been watching my videos. It's always inherently fun for me to just spread the joy and passion I have about art, regardless to be music, film, or games. In any case, this is the end of my first year-end list. Next up will be the top games of 2024, though I do have 1 or 2 games to finish up with, particularly Metaphor ReFantasia. Boy, am I loving that. Atlas is knocking out the park. And then later on, it will be the top films of 2024, though don't hold your breath. There's still a few films that I need to see that will be releasing soon-ish. In any case, progress is being made. I will be back. And without further ado, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. And once again, a Happy New Year's. Take care, everyone. Bye.